Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the North Hunterdon-Voorhees Regional High School District Board of Ed meeting on Tuesday, October 18th, 2022 to order. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 10-4-6, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by the submission of notice, date of the time, date, location, or instructions for remote access to the Hunterdon County Democrat on December 9th, 2021, the Star Ledger on December 7th, 2021, and subsequently re-advertised on May 19th and on September 8th, 2022. Notice, and to the extent known, the agenda of this meeting has been posted at the North Hunterdon High School and Voorhees High School and provided to the municipal clerks of Bethlehem Township, Califon Borough, Town of Clinton, Clinton Township, Franklin Township, Glen Gardner Borough, Hampton Borough, Highbridge Borough, Lebanon Township, Tewksbury Township, and Union Township, as well as all other interested parties, and posted on the district website. Fire exits are located in the direction indicated, and if alerted to fire, please move in a calm and orderly fashion to the nearest smoke-free exit. At this time, I ask you to please all silence your cell phones. And Katie, can we have a roll call?
Ms. Kirby?
Present.
Mr. Chapman?
Present.
Ms. Crisologo? Present. Mr. Carbanish?
Here.
Ms. Hicks?
Present.
Ms. Hoffman? Here. Mr. Birchberger?
Here.
Mr. Nealon?
Here.
Ms. Salino?
Here.
Mr. Stanton?
Here.
Mr. Straight?
Here.
And Ms. Beato?
Here. We all rise for our flag salute. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve agenda item 4.1, which is the minutes from our September 20th, 22 regular school board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
Right here.
John and Ryan, any opposed? Okay, motion passes. At this time, we have Sienna Britt and from North Hunterdon and Catherine Christ from Voorhees to provide our student representatives reports. Sienna, would you like to start?
Sure. So as of what's going on for the week, we have a Spirit Week going on for the 47th annual milk can game this year. We also have the powder puff game this Wednesday, juniors versus seniors. I'm proud to be participating in that one. We are also working on progress with getting feminine hygiene products in the girls' bathroom. And we have the fall play for 12 huntsmen. And most likely twos are getting, just got approved for this year's yearbook with students and teachers. That is all I have to report for this week. Is there any questions about anything I previously stated?
All right. Catherine?
Hi everyone, I'm super excited to be here with all of you guys. Likewise, we also have Spirit Fest this week. Super awesome, super excited. We did anything but a backpack today and it was awesome, super fun. A lot of kids participated and having a really great time with it. I was unfortunately not able to be at the last meeting, but I promise with good reason. I'm part of our field hockey team and we hosted and coordinated a game that was dedicated to mental health and ultimately suicide. So that was super awesome. We worked really hard to get it put together. We had an awesome turnout, great fundraiser, great support from everyone, and it was super amazing. All around, we're having so far a really awesome school year. All the students are really happy to kind of get back into a normal school year. I must say one of the greatest privileges that we gained from COVID was sitting outside for our lunches, and I think that's something that all the students are loving. I know I look forward to it every day, so it's just a great part, and I'm sad that it's getting cold out and we have to stay in, but, and then also something that's super excited is that our unified program got redesignated as Unified Champions, so we're super duper excited about that and just really proud of all the work that we can do, and, otherwise, I have no complaints. This is an awesome school year, and I can't wait for it to continue. Does anyone have any questions? Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you both. At this time, we're going to have a presentation and public hearing to review the New Jersey Department of Education school self-assessment for Hunterdon-Voorhees for determining grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act for July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, which is going to be presented by our own Dr. Burgess, our Assistant Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you. So every year I have to present the scores that our school safety team came up with for each one of our schools. And it's basically a rubric that is part of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. Out of 78 points, both of our schools scored 77 points. So according to our school safety teams, we're doing a pretty good job. And both of them, the one point that they thought we could do a little bit better was really professional development of our anti-bullying specialists. So we're going to do a little bit more of that this year. And so the process is, after I present it to you, get submitted to the State Board of Ed, or the State Department of Ed, and then they affirm it, and then I will bring it back to you in the spring. You'll again vote on it, that you're accepting it, and then the process is complete. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Judge. At this time, it's now time for the Chief School Administrator's report.
We're going to start with a presentation from Erin Spagala on the bond referendum.
Thank you, Mr. Bender. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to kind of sort of turn my back to hopefully nobody. So I'm here tonight to present our bond referendum. The board approved it in August to be on the November 8th general and school elections ballot. So I just want to take you through the pieces of it. And we've been trying to get the word out. We want the mailer if you're a registered voter in our district. So let's get started. So why now? Why is the board going out for a referendum now? So the biggest piece is that state aid is still being offered for capital projects, which means we can submit these projects to the state. Luckily, all of our projects, because they're focused on energy efficiency and safety, were approved for the full 40%. So we will get 40% of the project costs covered by state aid, and we're already approved by the Department of Education. That is only going to be available if voters pass our referendum. We can't, if we did it through the normal budget, we would not get state aid, which is why we're going through this referendum process. Second is that the board already has funds in their capital reserve account to cover the rest of the project costs, which means no increase to local taxpayers. So state aid, funds we already have, there would be no increase to our taxpayers. Third, also reduce maintenance costs. We all know we're paying more for utilities and electric and whatnot. So because a lot of these projects are going to be energy efficiency, higher efficiency equipment, we will have lower maintenance costs, which is always a good thing. And then obviously we want to do repairs and upgrades similar to those you do in your home. We want to obviously replace the equipment before it completely breaks down. So let's go over what's in the referendum. So we have, these are definitely necessary maintenance projects. The board had gone through all of their long-range facilities plan, all the projects we kind of have on our list of, to do. These were the highest priority projects that the board wanted to put in this referendum. So again, we're focusing on energy efficient projects and safety projects. So at North Hunterdon, for energy efficiency type projects, we're going to do the rest of the HVAC improvements. We did a lot during the 2016 referendum, which thank you, everyone passed. So we did a big chunk 6 years ago. This is going to be the remaining. So the 150s wing, 240s, which is our social studies, 250s and 150s are math and science. The O-level classrooms are English classrooms. Those units have been determined to be past their life expectancy, so we want to replace those. At Voorhees, we're going to do ventilation upgrades. Those are going to replace ventilation units with better equipment. That services the kitchen, first floor locker rooms, and rear gymnasium. Then also at Voorhees, we have the insulation around the chiller needs to be replaced. It's not considered as efficient as it could be, so all of that would be replaced. When we come to safety, at North Hunterdon, we're going to replace 29 sets of interior doors. So mostly the stairwell doors, and also the interior doors by the mall area, if you're going to cross the cafeteria. So we're gonna take all those out and we'll be putting with new fire-rated, barrier-free compliant doors. At North also is the locker room renovation. So they took a look at all the locker rooms at North. They selected the boys' locker room by the Gold Gym to be completely facelift. It is the oldest, one of the oldest locker rooms, also one of the most used because it's used for cadet classes. The girls' locker room is actually in the newer main gym wing, which was opened in 2005, so it doesn't need maintenance right now. The boys' gym really is the most used and the oldest. So they did a total facelift, plumbing fixtures, lockers, benches, flooring, lighting, and some HVAC upgrades. And then at Voorhees, for safety, we're also looking at replacing 2 exterior staircases. So one is an old wooden staircase that goes down to what they call the pit, which is the soccer lacrosse field. It's kind of a sunken field, just why I call it a pit. And then also the concrete and railroad tie steps, if you've ever been along the pedestrian bridge where it's great daily bike, those concrete steps need to be replaced and railroad ties taken out as well. So we'll put all new concrete steps in, retaining walls, because they're both on slopes, so we'll have all that good stuff. Just some pictures, just to give you an idea. So the North locker room pictures, so it's the boys' locker room, plus there's phys ed teachers' offices and the coach's locker room. So our maintenance staff has done a really great job of keeping it. A lot of plumbing fixtures aren't working properly, so it's going to get a whole new facelift. So it's going to have like touchless features, all new fixtures, doors, our stalls, flooring. So it'll be really, really nice. And then these are the staircases that Voorhees, the exterior staircases. So this is the one going out of the pit, the little wooden staircase. This is the concrete. You'll see the railroad ties. Obviously, they're sunken in. They're a little dangerous to walk on. And then this is the example. We would put these new concrete steps in, and like I said, they have a little bit of retaining wall on either side. So that would be the new steps. These are the interior doors. These doors are taken, beaten. High school kids kick in the door, punch in the door. 1,500 people going through these doors every day. So they've seen better days. So we're going to take these down. And then that's an example of the new interior doors with the bar and the lock too. Okay, so what will this cost taxpayers? Always the biggest question you get, right? So the total cost of all the projects is $6.5 million. No cost to you, as I went over before. So like I said, we've been approved by Department of Ed Ready to receive state aid. Again, we only get it if you approve it, which we hope you will. Obviously, the funds, like I said, also will be covered by a capital reserve account. So no cost to taxpayers. The board just has to do authorization on that when the time comes. So basically, we're taking out, you pass it, we take out the bond, we can pay it off immediately with the funds from the state and from what they have in their capital reserve account. And I want to point out, the board has been really good about their fiscal responsibility to taxpayers. So in the last 3 budgets, they have not gone over the 2% maximum cap. So they've been using savings, because our projects from the 2016 referendum actually came in under budget. They've been using those savings to offset tax levy increases in the last 3 budgets. So again, they're really presenting a referendum at this time because it will not raise taxes for local taxpayers. Schools are really your best investment. Just a reminder, we are the highest performing schools in New Jersey, Boulder National Good School of Excellence, which we're allowed to talk about. Over 80% of our graduates go on to post-secondary education. And special school district requires really build strong communities. Obviously, our school districts got communitors every day, all day. Real estate values are tied into that, and it's your home from market fluctuations. So we hope people consider supporting your schools under liberty. Just a couple things about how I can vote. We had some changes obviously with the pandemic, but you vote by mail. I've already applied for that. Early person voting starts October 29th through November 6th. And then obviously at your polling location on November 8th. Please don't miss our question. I just pulled the sample ballot. We're way at the bottom. It's the last thing on the ballot, so please don't miss it. Obviously you have your state and local at the first part, and then official school elections are the second part. So Board of Education candidates and then our question. So we just don't want you to miss it at the end.
It's actually on the back of the mail-in ballots.
Oh, the mail-in ballots on the back. Yes.
So you got to flip it.
So when you're in your poll booth, do the last question. So 4 things I just want you to take away. These really are no frills, necessary maintenance. This isn't anything flashy. We really just need to maintain our buildings. We're focusing on energy efficiency and safety. And we're going to talk then again about state aid. So,
we pay a lot of taxes in Hunterdon County. I live here, I totally understand. And we get very little state aid as schools in Hunterdon County. A lot of our budget is funded by local taxpayers. So instead of having enough state aid with other schools in other parts of the state, if we upgrade, let's bring it back here. And we can only do that with your support. It's only we get the 40%. And then, like I said, we'll not raise your local taxes. Like, we'll not stress that enough. So anyway, I hope you learned a little bit more about reference tonight. Please spread the word. Everything is on our website. I'm going to post this presentation as well. It's on our live stream. Hi to everyone watching at home. And you can also watch the recording afterwards as well. So I was going to take any quick questions. Anybody have any? Yeah.
Is 40% is covered by the state?
Yes.
Attorney, to cover the cost, and that is an estimate, correct?
No,
What if there are overruns?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Overruns.
Well, we are only approved for what we submitted to the Department of Education. So that's the $6.5 million. They'll cover 40% of that.
So if the project is delayed and there's an overrun, how does that get handled?
We're very diligent about putting those projects out to bid. So when we bid those projects, we're looking for the lowest bidder. So the amount of money that we're requesting in the referendum is really an estimate based on the work of the architect. So when we actually get the bids, our hope is that there will be enough money in there to cover any kinds of overruns. But based on how we managed our last referendum, we didn't have any overruns on that referendum. So
No, we actually had a savings, which we then gave back as tax relief.
I'm just, I think that what you're doing is great. I don't have an issue with the what. I just wonder how, in the management of it, with just about every project I've been associated with, there is a delay in time or an increase in the budget. And so I just, since you're saying no cost to the taxpayers, I just want to make sure, what do? Do you stop doing something if you see that you're getting an over? Who's managing the project?
So it's our business administrator, superintendent, and our architect. So they have to contain it within that $6.5 million. Like, that's what we're approved for.
Doesn't that include contingencies though?
It does.
Yeah. So there is money in there in case there are issues that come up, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
You will.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
When you talk about the energy efficiency,
Yes.
with all the flat roofs on schools and things like that, is there any chance there's gonna be some solar?
We actually have solar panels on our roofs right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we, the ones at Voorhees are already connected. JC Panel came out and approved those. We're just waiting for JC Panel to come out to North. We're actually gonna launch a website, ribbon cutting, whole big thing. So those are already on the roofs. We just have to have them connected into JC Panel. Yeah, absolutely.
Make sure people know that.
Yes, no, I'm waiting for JC Panel. I can shout it literally from the rooftop, right? Any other quick questions? Yeah, of course.
So, you're replacing the concrete steps by the, it's a great day to be away.
Yep.
Are you gonna cut down those trees because they're gorgeous?
No, that's not part of what we're doing. I mean, we should be able to fit within that footprint because the railroad ties go over pretty far,
Gotcha.
but that's not what we were gonna do.
Cool.
Yeah, I do agree. Yeah.
Thank you for the presentation.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'll turn it back over to Mr. Hunter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
You're welcome.
Just two items I want to report. The district has relaunched its after-school tutoring program with our teachers, which began last year. Students can fill out a form to request tutoring in any subject area, and they will be matched with a teacher. This program is in addition to the online tutoring available through tutor.com. Yesterday, October 17th, the Hunterdon County Vocational School District held a groundbreaking ceremony for the new Polytech building to be constructed on the campus of North Hunterdon High School. We look forward to this joint partnership with the vocational district to increase the career and technical educational offerings to students in Hunterdon County. The building will house 6 full-time career programs with students going to North Hunterdon for their regular classes. Actual groundbreaking is expected in March, with the new building anticipated to open in September of 2024. HIB reports for this month. We had 3 investigations, all 3 were unfounded. And just a reminder from last month, we had 1 investigation that was founded.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions?
And then 7.5 is another motion, that's to approve the memorandum of agreement between education law enforcement. Those of you who've been on the board for a while know that this document codifies the way that the school district communicates with law enforcement and the way law enforcement communicates with the school districts.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Opposition? Motion passes.
And the monthly reports are attached for your information.
Thank you. At this time, I just want to remind everyone that our regular board meeting next month will be held on November 22nd. That'll be at 7 p.m. here in the district office. And at this time, we're going to go through our committee reports. Tara, you want to start us off with community relations?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Community Relations met virtually on October 13th at 6 p.m. and everyone was present for the meeting. We discussed the referendum campaign, and since Mary's done the presentation, we discussed what committee members have been doing, our board members within the local community. But one of the things, because Mary's presentation was phenomenal, but what I wanted to reiterate as a board member is when she mentioned that 6 years ago we went to referendum to our taxpayers, we didn't have this 40%, but the monies, we had the budget, we completed the projects, and there was monies left over. So as a board, we voted to put the monies back to our taxpayers to not increase the tax levy this year. So I wanted to reinforce that our fiscal responsibility is very strong within the board, and we're doing this so that we can recoup some monies back from Trenton, from the state, to cover the cost of necessary capital improvements that our district needs between the two school districts. So your presentation was wonderful, and our meeting was pretty much on the activities that we've been doing as a board for community outreach so that we can get this approved. The other thing I wanted to point out is that the reason what we're going, the state had 12 referendums 2 weeks ago, and 11 out of the 12 passed. The reason we didn't do a separate referendum is because we wanted to reduce the cost to our taxpayers, so that putting it with the general election, which raises its risks because of the volatility of general election, we chose not to, but went out to the taxpayers for the purpose of saving our community money. So that's why it's on the November 8th, and it wasn't 2 weeks ago as a separate referendum like the rest of the state did. And that was all we had.
Anyone have any questions for Tara? All right. Thanks, Tara. Deb, can you help us out with curriculum, instruction, and technology?
Yes, thank you. So Curriculum Committee met on October 12th. All members were present. It was yet another jam-packed committee meeting. We went over 5 different topics. The first being the items on the agenda, items 12.1 through 12.6 up for approval tonight. Overall, these were as you all know from reading the agenda, the proposed district calendar, the clubs, which there will be 2 new clubs to be voted on. That will be volunteering. There will be no cost to the budget or the district for these 2 clubs. And the conclusion for this is that the committee supports items 12.1 through 12.6. The second item we discussed was the tutoring update for the district. Mr. Bender just went over a few of the items. The tutoring coordinators were approved at last month's board meeting, as I'm sure you remember. Right now, Ms. Magala also sent out an email today about what's going on with the teacher program, which is a separate tutoring option for our students after school. There's the one that's tutor.com, which is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week online tutoring program that we've been utilizing, and so far our students this year have utilized over 2,300 minutes using this program. We're using our ESSER funds from from COVID, and this program will stay in effect with the ESSER funds through the 2023-2024 school year, so through next year. Around 75% of the tutoring sessions have been used for math. And so far, students have rated the service a 4.6 overall out of 5. They get the chance to rate the service after they use it. It's been very successful, a lot of great feedback. As a district, the administration will be continuing to monitor the usage of the services, promote the services within the students, through the teachers, et cetera. And then after 2023, 2024, at some point as a board and the administration, we will need to decide, is this service worth continuing? And if it is, then we would have to budget for it. So that's a decision, just to know that will be coming, some more discussion about that. Agenda item number 3 was the preliminary Start Strong results. Biggest thing to know about this is there will be a presentation, as there is every year, on this. But as a committee, as we're supposed to, we did a much deeper dive into the results that are available as of right now. Things just to point out about the Start Strong assessment is that the first year that this was required was last year, because the spring Njsla was canceled due to COVID. So the state required that, and then they required it again this year. So there's not a lot of previous years to compare this to. There's also not a lot of data to really look at it and see its success in itself. Overall, there was, as well as the state has not released, I can't speak tonight, excuse me. The state has not released the results at this time, so we can't compare how our students did compared to the state yet. But once that happens, again, there will be a formal presentation to the board. Around 65% of our students were in the highest proficiency level in ELA, in English and language arts, and for math, about 50% of our students in Algebra 1 may need strong support. Key thing to remember about Algebra 1 is this testing is on the previous year's academic class, so there's a lot of articulation that comes into effect with this. So in terms of action items, the district administration is going over the results with the 8th grade teachers in all of our sending districts to make sure that they continue with our articulation meetings to get everyone on the same page, to get the students better prepared. And again, these will be presented to us once we have the state results. The 4th item to be discussed is the Njsla science score. The juniors took this assessment last May. The assessment does not count towards graduation, and the results are reported in 4 proficiency levels. 29% of our students across the state had levels 3 or 4 on the assessment, and 42% of the North Hunterdon-Voorhees had that 3 or 4, had that high assessment. So we did an outstanding result compared to the state results. This was an increase from 37% the last time it was given, which was in 2019, pre-COVID. We looked at, as a committee, we did a deeper dive into the results by domains, meaning like earth and space, life science, physical science, and practices, investigating practices, sense-making, and critique practices. So overall, again, some strong results, and we'll continue to monitor this as well and work with the school staff. The last items or topics discussed were just in terms of our mental health programs that are available in the district, how extensive they are, and we discussed with the administration to make sure that going forward, just getting this information out more to parents and to students. We know that the students are utilizing this, but we want to make sure that the community is aware of it as well. So the administration is working out like a TBD, like this will happen, we will get this knowledge out to the community. We're just trying to fine tune how we're going to do that. And one specific thing that is also being looked at by the administration, the therapy dogs that were brought into the school recently were a huge success, so they are trying to work out a program to have that in the schools constantly. So, and that was our committee.
Anyone have any questions for Deb?
Deb, when do they anticipate the state releasing the data?
Mr. Braun?
The window is open until this coming Friday, probably a month after that. I don't think we have the exact date, but
Yeah.
around a month from now.
I don't know. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. On the one science test, you talked about some of the numbers of where we, compared to the state average, we did pretty well. But looking at overall, 58% are not proficient. So I know it's a state problem, but I mean, it's our problem too. We have so many students aren't. So what, I mean, are there steps being taken to close that gap?
Yeah, there was a deep discussion of that. In fact, Mr. Brown, the way he presented it to all of us is that, you know, unless it's 100%, they're not gonna be happy. So there are definitely steps in terms of communicating with the classes. They're able to access a lot of the questions, as well as the details of the test so that they can figure out, that's why we did the deep dive into the areas, what areas need more focus on than others, and then aligning it with the tutoring services that we now have, as well as in the classroom.
So are we, our own grading scales, I guess, for students who obviously based on that test are really struggling, are we passing, you know, are they still getting good grades in our classes then so that we move them forward, or, you know, do their grades reflect how poorly they understand the information according to this test?
So please correct me if I'm wrong, there's definitely, they've been looking at our test grades versus the statewide test grades. And the state tests, because it's so different, you know, you have to look at both. You can't look at each, you can't just look at one and make a decision on that. So you have to look at the whole picture. And no, students are definitely not just being given cushioned grades to move forward. I don't believe there were any surprises. I remember you saying that, like, where students fell was kind of expected.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, you know, like I said at the meeting, we want 100% of our students to be successful in the test, but when across the state, I think it was 29% passed across the state. It's hard to, for a test that didn't count for anything, if you know where I'm going.
Like, did the students take it seriously?
So,
Because they know it doesn't count towards anything.
so is that a problem with the test? Like,
Yes.
like, I mean, it certainly sounds like it. If the average is 29% across the state, and our students who, you know, are generally high achieving, you know, like, it just feels like there's a problem with the test. Like, how does that get addressed?
How does it get addressed with the state? That I'm not sure. You know, we only had, remember, we didn't have that test for a couple of years due to COVID, and then this is really the second year that we've had this version of that science test, so there isn't much historical data to go on. We just have 2019 and 2022, and we did make a pretty good increase from 2019.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Deb?
Thank you.
Facilities, finance, and transportation?
Sure, thank you. Our committee met last Monday evening. Relatively short meeting, but some of the agenda items were, the first one, the parking situation, that's, or the need for additional parking, that's because of the Polytech building. We talked about that. There were two options on the table, one of which we ruled out because it wasn't cost effective. That was partnering with neighboring Beaverbrook property to come up with 100 spots. But that would require, from a cost perspective, that was going to be very, you know, out of line because of, we'd have to make improvements to our own, in order to access that site, we'd have to do improvements, you know, to build a road to it, and then the cost on an annual basis put it out of the ballpark. So what we're recommending, you'll see tonight, professional services to construct, and we're looking at rough 25 additional parking spots down in this area that can be generated, as well as another 29 spots on the other side of the building over by the JV baseball field and the practice football field. So we're not, the budget, I guess, we don't have firm costs yet, but we're looking somewhere between $870,000 and $1 million for these improvements. That's not what's on the agenda. What's on the agenda tonight is just professional services to get a better handle on these. Additionally, we talked about the upcoming audit. That looks like we're in good shape. That'll be presented at the November meeting. And lastly, we talked about just some of the other agenda items. You'll see there's a comprehensive maintenance plan that we're submitting to the county, as well as $44,000 of exterior lighting repair work that will be taking place here at North Hunterdon. That's all I have. Any questions on those? Thank you.
Brian has a
Brian.
question.
So, not to indicate I'm not supportive of this, but let me just make sure we understand. The Polytech building, which we agreed to approve, that's going to go forward, but it's going to cost us $109,000 for approving today to study $800,000 to $1 million project. So those are costs we are going to incur so that Polytech can build on our site.
Correct.
But Polytech is also going to be a source of revenue for us. So we will recoup that money probably within the first 2 years. Excellent, Polytech. Okay.
Yeah, and plus the benefit of just having those courses right here. It's something that we have to be really careful on because we're partnering here. We're the host property owner, and it's they're getting stretched thin because as was brought up earlier, with the economy the way it is and escalation of costs, projects could get out of hand, and if they don't get started soon and get firm numbers and firm commitments from contractors, they could get themselves in a financial bind in this project. And here it is on our property, and we don't want to get caught holding the bag. So, and I'm glad you brought that up because I did forget one other item that is on our agenda, but it's related to this. It's a memorandum of agreement for this work. Originally, we approved an abbreviated one so that they can go forward to receive their grant funding. And so what we're seeing tonight, we're approving, is just some more detail for this project.
This is item 15.2. So what you're referring to?
Yes,
Yeah.
first addendum to the memorandum, right, yes.
That's.
That's what I just,
I had a question about that, but I didn't know whether
Okay.
you fall under your committee.
well, yes and no. I mean, it's being worked out between our attorneys and our administration. But if you have a question, this is the time to bring it up.
It was, when I looked at it, it was long. It wasn't, we missed a couple things here. It was page after page after page after page of amendment. So I just wanted to understand what happened here, what did we?
Well, the first version was an abbreviated so they could go for the grant funding. So
Okay.
now it's the time to get into all the nitty-gritty and nail down all the detail.
So fair to characterize this as, this was expected all along?
It was intentional to keep it vague, to make sure that they just had the language that they needed to submit the grant. And then we knew that if it were moved forward, we just wanted to iron out all the logistics of having them on the property. So insurance and, how things are gonna operate with school security, all of those little details. We didn't wanna do the minutia at the beginning.
Right.
So we did that now the past few months.
Right. So nothing in there that would have changed how you would characterize the project to us? Okay. Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh,
Go ahead.
you go first.
The parking, it's only giving us about 50 spots out of the 80. Is that going to be a crunch for staff parking as well? I mean, I know we have less students and driving is only seniors. I don't know, or is that juniors too? And are we gonna be able to accommodate all our staff? There's not gonna be an issue? We're still losing 30 spots.
No, I think, working with the high school and with the way that we're laying out the spots on the top of the property, I think we'll have enough.
And we'll be fine with that budget? Do we
Yeah.
oversee, do you expect an overage over that?
No, that has.
That's a cushion?
That has contingency and market escalation inside of that number.
Okay.
I have a question. If it's giving us 54 spots, if we go the route of the 8 to $1 million, say it's $1 million, that works out to be $18,500 a spot. At $75 an annual fee for the students, it's going to take us 20 years to recoup that money. Has that been thought about? I'm just curious.
Well, because this is being proposed because of Polytech, as I said to Mr. Chapman, the revenue that Polytech generates on the campus will pay for in 2 years.
It will. What's the annual revenue we're anticipating?
We're anticipating about $500,000 a year,
Okay.
but that grows each year.
Right.
It's $500,000 per grade, so after 4 years, it would be $2 million in revenue per year.
And just to speak to the long-range facility plan, we already have this on our long-range facility plan to do the parking lots over the next 10-year period. So we're really just kind of moving it up as far as time frame than waiting until things are kind of in disrepair.
Thank you.
Any other questions for John?
Thank you.
Personnel, Shelley?
Yes, Personnel Committee met on the 12th of October, virtually at 6:30. All committee members were in attendance, with the exception of Mr. Barbanish. Also in attendance were Mr. Benter, Mr. Burgess, and Jessica Beato. We discussed and reviewed the personnel agenda, and that's all I have for you for this month.
Thanks. Policy and school security, Rob.
Yes, the Policy and School Security Committee met on October 10th, and all committee members were in attendance, except for Mr. Stanton couldn't be there. We had 4 agenda items. One is that there is one second reading of a policy on the agenda tonight, 2425, which is the policy for emergency, virtual, or remote instruction. There was a second policy that was first reading last month, 5512, which is harassment, intimidation, and bullying. There were some substantial rewrites to that were offered by Strauss Esme this month due to some legislation that was passed at the end of August. So the proposed policy changed in language enough after it was already presented for first reading that we decided to put it for first reading again this month. So that's why you're seeing it for a second first reading. In addition, we briefly discussed the abolishment of policy 2432 and its associated regulation, which were replaced by what we approved last month, which is policy 5722. So we recommend you approve the abolishment of those prior policies. And then you'll see 3 first readings, 5512 that I just mentioned, and then 5430, which is about class rank. That one is the need to change due to the phase out of letter grades. That's been underway for a couple of years now. And so now all students starting this year are on a numbered grading system. So we're revising the class rank policy to match that new grading, or not new, the grading policy that's in place. And then in addition, policy 5440, honoring student achievement, is also revised to match the grading system. And then we have 2 regulations that are 2 mandatory regulations. 2425, which is the Emergency Virtual Instruction Program, to align with policy that's up for second reading, and then mandatory regulation 5513, which is bringing that regulation up to match the policy that was approved last month. And then finally, there are two other regulations that are being presented, just for your information. They're not mandatory regulations, but that's on lesson plans and plan books, and that's again to match the policy that was previously approved. And then regulation 5440 is being revised to match the second, assuming we're gonna pass the policy 5440, then this is having the regulation match it. So just a lot of shifting around of languages. No, nothing really dramatically changing in those policies. Just that this is Strauss Esme earning its fee for changing verbiage, and we're updating it to match. Any questions?
Last meeting you had mentioned that when this is done, you're going to go as a committee going through our policies?
Yes. So we have a schedule for that, which starts in November, if I remember it correctly. So we do have a schedule laid out, starting with the oldest policies that have not been previously updated since we went to the electronic policy manual. And so I think that starts next month.
Great, and then part two of the question is, I had sent a committee request, just asking that since the committee is doing this, and we have a board goal of focusing on social emotional learning and mental health supports, can that be something added to the analysis of our policies, just to kind of look at it from a different lens than we've ever looked at before?
Okay, so I didn't see that,
Okay.
so I'm not sure how that.
It might have gotten lost in the transmission.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that would have been popped into my attention, but because we haven't started that yet.
Yeah,
we
it's
can-
perfect,
We
yeah.
can certainly take that into account, so apologize for not seeing it.
That's
but
okay.
I don't know if that was supposed to trigger an email or something, but whatever. I will add that to our discussion.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Just a different lens than we've ever
Sure.
done.
So my memory's not good enough. When I saw they abolished these two policies, you reminded me today that they were we replaced them basically. Why would we have not just when does a policy get edited and when does it get, start from scratch and scrap an old one?
That's a deep philosophical
In this case, the state passed a new law relating to student publications. So it was a complete new rewrite by the state, so that's why there's a complete rewrite of the policy. Okay.
You don't seem satisfied.
I mean, some of the ones that are modified.
Are modified dramatically.
There's a lot of redlining,
Yeah.
Well, if you
I'll have
look,
to go back.
I haven't-
The answer is I'll
if
go
you
back.
look
and
at it, Brian,
Yeah.
it's what it's replaced with is 5722 student journalism. That's what if you look at what they revised,
Okay.
that's the policy, go to 5722, and it's student journalism. And it covers was in
Student publications.
student publications. It's just more in depth.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good assistant.
I didn't know either, so I dug it out.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Rob? I believe there was a Hunterdon County or New Jersey School Boards Association meeting. Was anyone in attendance at this?
The Hunterdon County School Board Association they met on October 13th. They discussed the NJSBA workshop that's coming up in the city. I think we have some things going, right?
Yeah.
There's a delegate assembly on November 14th.
19.
And John Burns gave a legislative update, and there's a legislative panel, I think as a part of the NJSBA workshop, that he's encouraging folks to attend, it's for people that are going. And then the bulk of the meeting was a presentation by Thomas Gambino, who presented on school security and his efforts and organization around doing threat assessments for districts and drill evaluations. So it's interesting.
and I was in attendance, and it's free to every school district, so I know we have an outstanding security, but if we want them to punch holes in it and assess one of our drills, they'll come out for free and do it. So I would recommend, since it's free service and many eyes looking at different points, always helps.
It's Jeff Gale. I was there, I think there was like 5 of us there. And he's from the Department of Education. And I think I emailed Ray Pinney and asked him, because they said they would send out the copy of the presentation so you could all have it. So I just talked to Ray Pinney, I'm waiting for that, so I'll forward it.
Thank you.
But it's free,
Yeah.
so it might be great for our safety specialists too, and the administration.
Cool. Were there any other meetings or for either the school boards or the Hunterdon County Services that we need to report out on?
And the delegates next month.
Yeah, yeah. I know about the October 13th. But,
It's November 19th, though.
The
Yeah,
next one.
delegate meeting.
Yeah, the delegate meeting, okay. Moving forward, now is the opportunity for public comment. During this portion of the meeting, the public is invited to address the school board with questions or comments. The public is requested to sign the register provided for this purpose and to state their name, municipality of residence, group affiliation if applicable, and direct their comments to the school board president. While all comments will be considered and a response will be forthcoming if and when appropriate, school board members will not respond to the speakers at the time of their appearance. The public comment period will be for a maximum of 30 minutes in length unless there are unusual circumstances. Those appearing will be allotted or allocated 3 minutes to speak, and no one will be permitted to speak twice until those that have not yet had an opportunity to speak have had a turn.
Should I call this on first or?
Yeah, if you could sign in first and then let us know.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for the opportunity to comment tonight. My name is Eva Dziedzic-Elliott. I'm the president of New Jersey Association of School Librarians, Njsla. Over the past year, your district has weathered the wave of censorship that has barreled across the country. In 2021, the American Library Association recorded 729 challenges to nearly 1,600 book titles. That's the highest number of challenges since the ALA, American Library Association, began formal tracking in 2000. As a result, PEN America has labeled the current climate in public education as Ed Scare, recalling the dark days of 1950s McCarthy era. Despite the darkness, though, there are points of light. Among them are the actions of this board. On behalf of New Jersey Association of School Librarians, I would like to officially thank you for your January vote to retain the 5 books that were challenged in your district. I also applaud your efforts to follow the selection and reconsideration policies you have in place. Policies, I might add, that are considered the gold standard in New Jersey and which other districts seek to replicate. Unfortunately, I must also report that the danger of censorship has not passed. As of August 31st of this year, ALA has already recorded 681 challenges against more than 1,600 books, placing us on track to exceed the last year's record number of censorship attempts. As you know, these challenges have arisen from a nationally coordinated effort organized by players with an extreme political and religious agenda, the goal of which is to undermine public education. Among their tactics is slandering teachers and librarians, another situation you have experienced in this district. So I urge you to remain vigilant against those who would attack your school library, your librarians, and students' First Amendment right to read, even if they should eventually sit among you on the board. Fortunately, your community is blessed with role models for vigilance. The North Hunterdon-Voorhees intellectual freedom fighters have been stalwart in their support for students' right to read since their formation in 2019. Composed of community members, parents, students, alumni, and educators, the freedom fighters include, among others, local business owners, retirees, a college English professor, a public library director, and a teenager who is among one of only 12 student ambassadors for National Coalition Against Censorship. The freedom fighters also embody the principles of diversity and inclusion that have been so regularly derided by book banners and this microphone. Because of their outstanding work, it was my pleasure earlier this evening to present the freedom fighters a commendation from the American Association of School Librarians. So here's the copy of the certification. This national recognition honors the group's work to protect the intellectual freedom rights of students and staff in North Hunterdon-Voorhees community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board?
Hi, my name is Brendan McIsaac. I'm a resident of Clinton, parent of 2 kids in the district. I'm an educator and administrator with over 27 years of experience, and I served 9 years on the Clinton-Glen Gardner Board of Education, so I understand and I appreciate the work that you do. If you're a student of educational history, you may know that after the Supreme Court decided Brown versus Board of Education, declaring segregated schools inherently unequal, there were many schools and even countywide systems that rather than integrate, simply closed down and denied funds to black neighborhoods. The resistance and refusal to fund schools in those neighborhoods created educational outcomes whose ripples can still be felt to this day. That's the danger of inequity. Now to the present. A little over a year ago, I was shocked to watch a vocal group with extreme views attack our schools, our staff, our students. They sought to ban books, to eliminate the recognition of LGBTQ students from classroom and curriculum, and to whitewash the teaching of America's troubled history with racism, Jim Crow, and civil rights. They even labeled wellness initiatives as socialist or racist. I began attending meetings along with hundreds of other community members who also rejected these extreme ideas. I wrote the board illustrating how their agenda paralleled the work of political action committees, such as No Left Turn and Moms for Liberty, and how they were targeting the same books and using some of the same tactics. What you and we experienced last year was the first step of a concerted effort to discredit, defund, and ultimately dismantle public education. Those committees hope to do away with the public good. You can go to their sites, you can read their legislation, it's all there. Where they cannot dismantle public education, they seek to segregate curriculum by rejecting the diversity that is the mandate of our schools and the very act of creating informed citizens capable of participating in democracy. Instead, they embrace division and separation by targeting and seeking to ban books by Black, brown, and LGBTQ authors, by eliminating the LGBTQ experience from sex ed and classroom discussion, and by calling the very teaching of racism in American history as racist itself via the all-purpose boogeyman of CRT. Of most immediate concern is that 3 folks who were active in this effort of division are now seeking to become board members and oversee our schools. It is my hope that once again, an informed citizenry will turn out and say no to intolerance, say no to extremism, say no to the efforts to divide students and communities, and say yes to public education and those who support its ever-evolving mission of diversity and equity for all our students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Max Moore and I'm a junior at Voorhees High School. Some notes I'm going to pull up real quick. Okay, there we go. So after public comments, you guys are going to be voting on a club called SAS, which is Student Advocates for Speech. I'm the student who proposed that club, so I just wanted to come up here and talk a little bit about it. So I applied to, SAS is basically this program run by the National Coalition Against Censorship. 10 students from across the country were chosen to start these clubs in their schools. There we go. I was one of the students. I applied back in April, and we started our training in the summer. So we've been having monthly meetings and trainings to catch up with one another. One of those trainings involved a lecture from Professor Rupert Nkoste of North Carolina State University. Recently, we had a meeting where we spoke with board members from NCIC, and Ellen Hopkins was there, who wrote the book Crank. And so SAS is basically a club that will bring students together to talk about current censorship issues, debate these current issues as they relate to students and schools. It's a space where students can come together to talk about these issues as it affects them and figure out ways to combat these issues on a local level. I wanted to thank the board for their support of SAS in advance. Thank you.
Would anyone else like to address the board? Time, I'd like to call for a motion and a second to approve agenda items 12.1 to 15.12.
Second.
Second. Are there any questions regarding the items before we go to vote? It's just a voice vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Or abstentions? Motion carries. At this point in time, I'd like to ask if there's any old or new business to discuss. Okay.
Mrs. Salino had asked for a directory. I just want to let you know that that is now in the board resource.
Oh, good, thank you, thank
It's
you.
called District Office Staff Job Titles and Responsibilities.
Yay. Thank you.
Take it off your list, Kim.
Off my bucket list.
All right. Any other old or new business? Okay. I'd like a motion and a second to adopt resolution 101-822-2 for executive session to discuss matters falling under category 7 and 8 as reflected in the attached resolution, The board expects to be in executive session for approximately an hour, and upon return to public session, action will be taken. All in, oh, I need a motion in a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Find yourself in the
executive session. Can I have a motion and a second to reconvene public session, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposition? We are back in public session. Do we have any new business that we would like to discuss at this point? Okay.
What?
Roger, do you have anything? You look like you
Actually,
wanted
I
to say
do.
something.
Just so everybody knows, I'll have more details for you in the later meeting, but there is going to be a proposal that's going to be made by Exxon to develop the property across the street. It could have some fairly large impacts to us, so it's something we're going to have to carefully decide, and as soon as I have the proposal that's going to be made to the township, I will share it with the board.
Interesting. Thanks for the heads up.
What do we get to decide?
Any other new business? All right. Can I call for a motion and a second to approve agenda items 20.1 to 20.3, including hand carries if provided?
So moved.
Second.
Tara? Oh, Shelley. All in favor? Oh, it's a roll call vote?
Ms. Bonomi?
Yes.
Mr. Chapman?
Yes.
Ms. Crisalogo?
Yes.
Mr. Farvanish?
Yes.
Ms. Hintz?
Yes.
Ms. Hoffman?
Yes, but with an abstention on 20.2.
Mr. Kirchberger?
Yes.
Mr. Mueller?
Yes, but abstaining on 20.2.
Ms. Salino?
Yes.
Mr. Spancy?
Yes.
Mr. Straight?
Yes.
And Ms. Beato?
Yes. And can I have a motion and a second to adjourn?
So moved.
You always have to
All
give
in
it to
favor?
Roger.
We have to vote. Aye.
You have to give it to Roger.
Motion carries. Meeting over.
That's what I
I'm
like.
already starting